we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. I'm Shane Stacks, your host. Glad to be here with you on another, I don't know if I'd say it's a lovely Saturday. It's kind of rainy and yucky out there here in Little Rock, Central Arkansas area, but it's lovely to be a geek, and it's lovely to have a Geek Talk Radio show that goes out live and then later as a podcast. So always remember you can listen on the radio at 96.5 FM The Answer, or online at the 96.5fmtheanswer.com. And we're also on the iHeartRadio and TuneIn apps on your smartphone, so there's plenty of ways to listen. Also, don't forget, we're carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi, kryptonradio.com. We're carried currently a week delayed on Krypton Radio, but Gene Turnbow, the founder and basically genius behind the scenes, is working on a way over there to get it live. So that's really cool. Also, don't forget, we do go out as a podcast, usually within a couple of days after the live show. And you can get that on my blog at shaneplays.com, iTunes, Stitcher, and many other fine podcast directories, as well as, I have a YouTube channel for Shane Plays. You can go to youtube.com/GoShanePlays. And there's I put the podcast up there too. So you can subscribe to me on YouTube and get the podcast that way. There's a veritable plethora of ways, Zach. Zach just looked at me funny. That's my able-bodied producer. Also, don't forget before we dig into the news that you can always go to shaneplays.com. That Shane Plays like I like to play stuff, not Shane Plays like my place. Shaneplays.com. And there's a show notes page up that has links for all the news items and my guest and all that stuff. So if you're like, hey, I want to know more, I didn't hear what Shane just said, you can go to shaneplays.com, get the show notes. Speaking of our guest today after the news segment, joining us about 15, 20 minutes after the hour will be Reese from Frontline Gaming, and we'll be talking Warhammer 40K, which is one of the big wargaming games out there. It's been around for decades now, so looking forward to that. But first, let's open up the microphone to the newsroom. Let's see what's going on in those guys in there. Oh, there they go. They're working. Come rain or shine, they're working. Love those guys. Remember, if every dollar we get of support via Patreon is a penny an hour raise for our hardworking news team. So, and I just had, I'll try to pull this over the break and give this guy a shout out. I just had a guy bump his support from $2 per show to $5 per show. Really appreciate that. And I will make sure to dig that up over the break and give that guy a shout out. Much appreciated. So here's the first news item. If you're a Blade Runner fan, one of the best, not just best sci-fi movies, but one of the best movies ever made, period, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others. Yesterday, January 8, 2016, in the movie was the Replicant Roy Batty's inception date. And now Roy Batty was played by Rutger Hauer. Amazing performance by him. And he's really well known for the speech that he gives right before his replicant time of life expires and he just sort of dies as he's in conflict with Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, so who may or may not be a replicant. It's always kind of hidden around. So Zach, go ahead and kick off that monumental speech that Rutger Hauer gives in Blade Runner.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
Amazing movie, amazing scene. If you've never seen Blade Runner, go see it. There's multiple cuts. I like there's so many director's cuts and all this stuff out there. My favorite is the ones when it ends on and I'm not even going to say who survives or whatever, but they get on an elevator right at the end, and it's kind of ambiguous. I love that version, but I love all the versions. Good movie. Zach, have you ever seen Blade Runner?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you really, honestly need to see it. It's whether it's sci-fi or not. It's just an amazing movie. And that speech the Rutger Hauer gives is actually, there's a whole story behind it. It's considered one of the best monologues in movie history, one of the best short speeches in movie history. And he sort of ad-libbed it. There was a speech that he sort of edited himself and shortened and changed up a little bit the evening before he recorded the scene, and it was just amazing. So good stuff. So in honor of Blade Runner and the character of Roy Batty, we wanted to play that. Go watch some Blade Runner if you haven't seen it in a while. So here's this should be news that should shock no one. Not a single soul should be shocked by this. Star Wars The Force Awakens has passed Avatar to set the domestic record. Now, that doesn't surprise me. What's somewhat newsworthy is that Star Wars has done it in 20-something days, where it took, 20 days, Star Wars The Force Awakens hit 750 million. Avatar took 34 weeks and a re-release in 2010 that earned another 10.5 million. So Star Wars just continues to blow the doors off of it. Now, I'm going to shock a lot of people. I'm probably going to shock you, Zach. I've never seen Avatar.
I've seen it, but it's not one of my favorite movies.
Really? I mean, I know it was just, for whatever reason, I've never seen it. I think I got turned up because the previews and everything look like Pocahontas in space is what it looked like to me. But I'd like to see it in 3D and all that. But yeah, I can't believe I'm losing geek points. I've never seen Avatar. I know it's a big one. So, all right, we have several TV related news items. I'm just going to blow right through them, folks, throw out some teasers. And if you want to know more, go to shaneplays.com and check out the show notes. But I get bogged down in the news segment a lot, and I don't want to do that. I want to give our guests plenty of time. So here's some quick ones. Daredevil season 2 is going to debut on Netflix on March 25th. Now, here's what's interesting about that. They're debuting at the same weekend that Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice releases in the theaters. Now, a guy I work with named Mike, who's definitely a solid fellow geek that I work with, and I debated this the other day, and some of the articles, including the article I linked in the show notes, they're like, is that going to hurt Batman or is it going to hurt? I don't think it will, because Daredevil is for free. If you already have Netflix, it's for free. You can watch it whenever you want. Mm-hmm. Batman Dawn of Justice is a limited time thing in the theater. Yeah. I really don't think that it's going to affect one way or the other, but maybe people know more than I do. I guess if you're broke that weekend and you're like, oh, I was going to go see Batman, but I can watch Daredevil, then I could see that. But I just really don't see it. But I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that are probably smarter than I am that think it's a battle royale. So,
I agree with you.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know everything. You can mark that. I said that on January 9th, 2016 at 1:13 and 28 seconds. I said, I don't know everything. I'll never say it again. So, well, I might. Anyway, I don't know if I'll say that or not. See, I don't know everything, Zach. All right. This is neat. Let me start over. NBC has ordered an Office-like series based on the DC Comics universe. That's from Polygon. The last news story was from comicbook.com, by the way. So The Office, we know all the Michael Scott and the fake documentary series, something like that with average people set in the DC Comics universe. It's going to be called Powerless. So I don't know. There's not a lot known about it right now, but it does seem like it's going to feature lesser known DC Comics characters. So I don't know. M. Night Shyamalan, who I like his movies. He's hit or miss, but he's put some good stuff out there. In fact, Signs is one of my favorite movies ever, period. Love Signs. Of course, I liked Sixth Sense and all that. Pardon me. Anyway, he's reviving Tales from the Crypt as part of a new TNT horror block. Did you ever watch the old Tales from the Crypt on HBO? No, it was a really well-known, popular series, an anthology series. Each week was a different story and different characters with a horror story. And it was based on an old comic book that was an anthology horror. Well, anyway, it was very popular. Featured the Crypt Keeper. Have you ever seen the little puppet, the Crypt Keeper puppet.
I think I may have.
Yeah, so it's well known. Anyway, it's coming back on TNT, and it's kind of being led by M. Night Shyamalan. Now, I don't know if people don't know if it's going to how close it's going to tie into the HBO series or not. But anyway, that's interesting. And Guillermo del Toro is doing a show on Netflix. It's an animated show called The Troll Hunters. And it's about two boys that discover things going on underneath their town. Now, he's kind of known. This is from Polygon. And the M. Night Shyamalan story is from Variety. But according to Polygon, Del Toro is known more for his kind of mature stuff, but this seems to be aimed more at younger viewers. And also, this is actually equally as interesting to me. All of the DreamWorks movies are coming to Netflix. That's actually a pretty big deal. So all the DreamWorks animated stuff is coming to Netflix. Okay, here we go. BBC America is giving a series order to pick up Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Now, if people don't know Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, it's the same author that wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, I've read a couple of the books. I didn't like them as much as Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I did like the books. And it's very quirky. It's this kind of detective who's like kind of metaphysical. He's like, well, if you're ever lost, just follow somebody else. They know where they're going. By default, you're no longer lost. He's got this kind of goofy, new agey almost kind of approach to life. So, and I guess there was a limited series a few years ago that did fairly well. And now they're bringing it back for an actual series. So, and then the last TV announcement I have is HBO has announced that Game of Thrones will have a season 6, and the premiere date is April 24th. And that's according to Nerd Rage News. And the interesting thing is the plot points are going to be from a book that is not published yet. So it's the first time that the TV series will spoil the book instead of the book spoiling the TV series. So just because the book hasn't gotten out yet. So let me get, we've actually got our guest on the line right now. So let me get through the rest of these news items. We'll hit a break, and then we're going to dig into Frontline Gaming and Warhammer 40K. But just in time for Star Trek's 50th anniversary year, they found Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry's long-lost data, and they've recovered it. They found a lot of discs, like something like 200 floppy disks that Gene Roddenberry had. But the funny thing is he had a custom computer and a custom operating system and custom software. So it was really hard for them to recover all this information. They says documents and scripts and all kinds of other stuff. And it's interesting because this is the 50th anniversary year for Star Trek. So I hope some really neat stuff comes out of that. But there's a story that there's a company called Drive Savers that actually recovered the data. They can't say yet what was recovered exactly, but they have an interesting blog post on it. So for those that are fans of Settlers of Catan, that game has now been sold. It's under new ownership. It's no longer with Mayfair Games. I think it's originally there's a whole different company in Germany, I think, that owns it. But I think if I have this right, that Mayfair Games have the rights to it for North America. And now there's a company called Asmodee that also owns Fantasy Flight Games and Days of Wonder, and they've taken it over. So if you've never played Settlers of Catan, Zach, or Catan, it's huge. Have you ever played it? Monster big board game.
I have not.
Okay, it's like the Monopoly of this generation.
Okay.
Monster huge. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting. Is Reese actually on the phone? Can he talk right now?
Yeah.
Hey, Reese, you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Hey, what's up, man? We're still doing some news, but we're going to get your... Do you ever play Settlers of Catan?
Yeah, I mean, that is, like you said, that's a Monopoly of this generation. Settlers of Catan is a great game.
Yeah, it's huge. Did you know that Mayfair Games sold it to Asmodee?
I did not, but Asmodee is the largest game distributor in Europe. Yeah,
well, I know that they own Fantasy Flight Games and Days of Wonder. And Days of Wonder, of course, does Small World and I think Ticket to Ride and that. But anyway, I hope that the brand is in good hands because that's a beloved game. So, but anyway, we're going to do just a few more news items, Reese, and then we're going to take a break and dig into Warhammer. But feel free to, if you have anything to say on these news items, feel free. Now, this is hardcore, Zach, and Reese, too. All right, a gamer left his Super Nintendo entertainment system powered on for 20 years so that he could keep his game save. 20 years. 20 years. Isn't that crazy?
Impossible.
Yeah, the game is, I don't even know the game. Let me see if I can find it. It's Japanese. I can't even pronounce the name of it, but it was it's some Japanese game that it is called Umihara Kawase. And he did not want to lose the save game, and he's kept the dang thing powered on for 20 years. That is ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, and something, evidently, during a move, he had to power it down briefly, but I guess it wasn't powered down long enough for the save game daddy to get lost. But they calculated it's been on for 180,000 hours. So, and if you want to know more about you can go to shaneplays.com. This is interesting. This shows that, PC gaming is not going away, folks. It's always predicted it ain't going nowhere. Steam hit a new peak of 12 million players playing concurrently over New Year's. 12 million people playing at the same time over New Year's. That's a lot. That's a lot of PC gamers. So, and that's at the same time. That's not over the whole weekend. That's at the same time. So, like I said, that PC gaming is going nowhere, which makes me happy because I'm a PC gamer. I do like consoles, but I'm a PC gamer first. And then we've got this is interesting, Activision, and we got one more news item after this, and then we'll move forward. But Activision aims to create the ESPN of esports, and they purchased Major League Gaming for a rumored like $40-something million. So they're wanting to make an ESPN of esports. Esports is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So this will be really interesting. Now, Reese, what we need is an ESPN of tabletop wargaming, don't you think?
We're trying.
Yeah, well, you're kind of doing that on Twitch, aren't you? That's how I found you guys. I started watching your is it Tuesday night or Thursday night fights?
Tuesday night fights.
I started watching your Tuesday night fights. Yeah, and got hooked. So, all right, and then last, if you've always wanted to live in is it Azeroth from World of Warcraft? I think that's the name, is Azeroth. If you've ever wanted to live in Azeroth, you can do the next best thing. There's a subdivision in Canada that has real world street names from World of Warcraft. So you can live in such places as Silver Moon Crescent, Torino Terrace, Whaler Ridge, Glastonbury Walk, Ravenswood Way. So evidently the developer that developed that subdivision was a World of Warcraft fan. So that's pretty neat. And if you want to know more, go to shaneplays.com and you can see all these news items. There's also links there to Frontline Gaming and everything that Reese is doing. And when we come back from the break, we're going to properly introduce Reese and Frontline Gaming to you, and then we're going to talk Warhammer for the rest of the show. So, Zach, take us to a break. When we get back, we're going to have more goodness on Shane Plays, a journey into the things we love.
Megawars.net. The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate battle of the galaxies. Grab your slot today in one of the most hotly anticipated indie games of 2015. Visit Megawars.net and get options only available during our pre-sale event running now. Megawars.net.
The die is cast.
Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. We are joined, even as we speak, right now by Reese from Frontline Gaming. And Frontline Gaming is, I'll let him tell a little bit more about it and introduce himself. But not only are they a very cool gaming related store/service, but they also have a Twitch channel where they do like a Q&A show, and they do live Warhammer games and all kinds of cool stuff. So that's how I found out about them. And I've always been fascinated with Warhammer, but I've only played it once. And so I'd like to know more about it. And so I invited Reese on, and lo and behold, here he is. So Reese, welcome to Shane Plays Radio, and thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Shane. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, really glad to have you. Now you're out of California, correct?
Yeah, we're down in San Diego, California.
Okay.
We actually have a store in Northern California as well.
Okay, cool. Now tell us a little bit more about Frontline Gaming. Go ahead and take a couple of minutes and blurb, pitch yourself, do yourself a blurb, and then after that we'll talk Warhammer.
Sure, I can give you the radio blurb that we that we do in my announcer voice, but
okay.
Frontline Gaming is a brick and mortar game store. You can walk in, pick up some games, play on board games, tabletop games, especially Warhammer 40K, War Machine Hordes, all that good stuff. And we sell online as well at a discount. So anybody who wants to pick up some gaming goodies at up to 25% off, they go to frontlinegaming.org. We also have a paint service. We paint miniatures for people.
Right.
And we run events. We have the Las Vegas Open coming up next month at Bally's Casino, February 5th to the 7th in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be a blast. And we have a Twitch channel. We do live gaming. Like you said, Monday and Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And
right.
7 p.m. on Tuesday night, we do a live game of 40K.
Nice.
And we have guests come in and play myself and my partner, Frankie. And yeah, we do a ton of stuff. We have a blog, daily information about gaming, frontlinegaming.org, YouTube channel. We have a podcast, Signals from the Frontline, on iTunes, and Partridge in a Pear Tree. We do a lot.
No kidding. Yeah, some of that stuff I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew about your website and I knew about your painting service. I will probably, because I like minis, but I have never been into painting. I've tried a few times and I just don't have the desire or patience or whatever. So I could very well be trying to order some painted stuff from you guys. But yeah, I also wanted you to throw out there your fat mats. You're kind of known for your fat mats, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we manufacture. We were the first company to come to the market with a neoprene, like mouse pad material gaming mat. For people who aren't familiar, when you're playing a miniatures game, it's like a cross between model railroading and like chess. So you have really elaborate miniatures that you painted, terrain, and traditionally we would go and play on either a big heavy piece of wood that was painted to look like some sort of terrain, like a desert or forest, or a piece of cloth or felt, and it didn't look very nice, so it was very impractical. So we designed these mats, and they've been extremely popular. And they roll up, they look great, and you roll them out on the table, put your terrain and your miniatures down, and you have a really fun game. It really makes the gaming experience more immersive and enjoyable. Right.
Yeah. I mean, they look nice. And also, I checked with one of the sponsors for Shane Plays here in Little Rock. Is called Game Goblins, and they carry your fat mat. And
yeah,
so, yeah.
They're one of our retailers, yeah.
Yeah. So they actually carry it. So, okay. Well, so tell me about Warhammer and how you got, I mean, what about it, what made it such a big part of your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, 40K, Warhammer, however you want to call it, Age of Sigmar is another product line. They also do Lord of the Rings, the company Games Workshop. I was introduced to it by a cousin when I was traveling overseas in England, visiting my family. And a cousin of mine took me to a Games Workshop store, handed me a miniature that's called Space Marines. I fell in love when I was a little kid. 34 years old, still in love. I just never went away. But, like I'm sure like you do, I have a background in reading comics, watching anime. Played, Battletech was my first miniatures game. So I had a fascination with building models and playing games, as I'm sure everybody listening to the show can relate to.
Yeah, I love Battletech.
Oh, great game. Still, classic Battletech, still one of my favorite miniatures games.
Right.
Play with one lance, four mechs versus the other guy. Super fun game.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting since you bring up Battletech. One of the things that seems to be a draw to both Warhammer and Battletech is not just the game system, but the rich lore that they have behind it. Yeah.
Yes. yeah, the without a doubt, the best thing about Warhammer games is the rich backstory, without question. I mean, 40K has over 1 million original pages of content produced about the game. Black Library, the publishing division, publishes like a New York Times bestseller almost every other month. It's crazy. There's a huge audience out there that just gobbles it up. And 40K, which is the game system that we focus on, it's like a science fantasy in the vein of like Star Wars, where it's almost more of a fantastical setting than a true hard science fiction setting. But it's just such a deep story. It goes back tens of thousands of years. Big, larger-than-life characters. Really interesting. And that's by far the coolest part about the game.
All right. So now there are a lot of wargaming systems out there. In fact, D&D, which I'm very much a tabletop role-playing gamer, D&D came out of wargaming. It originally, you had chainmail, which were wargaming rules. And then, so what is it about, I guess what I'm asking is, there are a lot of wargaming systems out there. What is it about the actual system, the rules, the math or whatever of Warhammer that makes it so popular? Like what sets it apart?
Well, to be blunt, the rules for the game are antiquated and they're pretty convoluted.
Okay.
You have to be like a scholar. You have to be a scholar of the game, really, to understand what the hell is going on.
Okay.
To be fair, it's easy to get into the game. I'm not trying to scare anybody away, but anyone that plays the game will be chuckling listening to me say that, because the rules are pretty crazy. But what really, I think, the draw of it from a math perspective is the infinite variability in designing your army. We call it writing a list. And you write a list of all the various, fantastical soldiers and war machines and items and whatnot that you use. Anybody, a role-playing gamer, will be very familiar with that. And there's an infinite number of variables. Like, you could constantly be creating new things and new ways to play it, themes that you want to explore. It's unending. So that, I think, is the draw of the gameplay, is that there's such a rich backstory to inspire you to create your own custom force, and then that you can represent that with painting and modeling, and then through the expression of writing out your list of all the different guys, what they have, the customization is essentially infinite. That's, I think, the really exciting and engaging part of it from the gameplay perspective.
Now, is that could the antiquated nature of the rules be addressed and still keep that, or are they kind of intertwined?
Yeah, well, really, the rules are the way that they publish the game. It's that they come out with like a supplemental piece of material that adds to the existing rule set. So to do a hard reboot, they'd have to like scrap everything and start over. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I love watching you and Frankie. Y'all do a Signals from the Frontline show. It's around lunchtime on Twitch.
Yes.
I can't remember what day of the week it is off the top of my head. But there's definitely a love-hate relationship that you and Frankie and everybody in the chat room has with Games Workshop. So, and they're like, what is that? Doesn't make any sense. And then they'll be like, ooh, that's so cool. And so, yeah. So it's like any geeky subculture, there's that deep love-hate relationship with it. I'm one of those people that is like, hearing that the rules are kind of antiquated and convoluted, that attracts me. I like stuff I've got to dig into and pour myself into, but like maybe everybody's not like that, but I would assume most people that are pretty hardcore war gamers, would that probably wouldn't be a major turnoff. So, now what is from what I see, the games I've seen. Now, I played one game of Warhammer, man, back in the 90s, early 90s, and ironically enough, it was in England. I was in the Air Force and I was stationed in England. And there was a guy that had like Starfleet battles, and he had Warhammer and all that stuff. And he's like, hey, you want to play Warhammer? I was like, sure. And I mean, he just smoked me. It just wasn't even, I don't know if I was terrible or if he just didn't take it easy on me at all, or maybe both. But I mean, he just trashed me. And then I played that video game War Hulk or Space Hulk. That was Warhammer related. And I was like, man, this game's hard. So for a long time, I was like, this is beyond me. But over the past few years, the more I pay attention to it, the more I've got into wargaming and that sort of, kind of being aware of it. I'd love to give it a shot one of these days. So, what would you recommend if somebody's like, I know what wargaming is, I know how to roll a dice, I know a little bit of strategy. How would you tell somebody to start?
Well, with Warhammer specifically, we have like basically a tactics wiki on our page at frontlinegaming.org, where you can go in and just like dive into all the different tactics articles and educate yourself on the basics. We have like a bunch of 101 series articles. Also, there's a lot of forums out there that are really informative.
Okay.
That you can go to. And they have really inviting communities. People. The cool thing about tabletop gaming is it's inherently social, so you need to
right.
interact with people. That's why I like it more than video games. And there's just a wealth of information out there. The internet's your best friend.
Right.
Anybody that's interested in it and wants to try it out, go check it out online, and then just go waltz into a friendly local game store and check out when their game night is for whatever game appeals to you.
Yeah.
And just go walk in. Everyone's real friendly. They'll 9 times out of 10 they'll welcome you with open arms. Like,
well, that's cool. Yeah, there's always going to be. Yeah, every group's got one person, but I understand what you're saying. It's more likely than not they're going, hey, come on in and check this out, and they'll kind of help.
Yeah, totally.
I run a tabletop RPG game once a week, and we don't turn anybody away. I mean, we've had, and this is a lot of people. We've had like 11 people in a session one night, and it worked because everyone's wanting to have fun and make sure people know how to play. So, but now Warhammer, is it always one-on-one? I mean, is it one team versus the other, or does it, are there rules for having 3, factions or 3 lists in one fight, or how does that work?
You can really do it any way you want. The rules are really open-ended. That's kind of one of the other really cool things about it. And also, love-hate, like we were saying, because it leaves some ambiguity on how to interpret things, which can cause, friction, but it's also really cool because it unleashes your imagination. But typically, the game is really written for a 1 versus 1, but you can do anything you want. There's what they call the Apocalypse rule set, which is for giant games, like 20 on 20 or whatever the case may be. And especially young kids who don't have a lot of models yet, they'll just kind of wing it.
Right.
All right, us 3 versus you 2, and then we'll just figure it out as we go. It's really fun to see them do it. So you can really play the game however you want. They give you a baseline rule set that you can basically use as a starting point. But traditionally, it is 1 versus 1. Yeah.
All right. So is it like, and I know this is not a close analogy game-wise, several years back, I got into HeroClix for quite a while. And, HeroClix would say, okay, this is going to be a 200-point battle. And so you would, each HeroClix had a point value assigned to it. And so is that how the lists work? You say, hey, this is going to be a 300-point battle, or is that how you build your list, or, to make sure that there's a bit of balance?
Precisely, yeah. You don't have to use points.
Okay.
The game allows you to just kind of like put stuff on the table.
Okay.
Which again, usually for kids.
Right.
Just 10 years old is a little too young for the math, but typically speaking, you play a point-sized game. It's usually 1850 points.
Okay.
And each model and any various upgrades or changes that you make will cost X amount of points. And list writing is a fun exercise unto itself. It's like making a character for D&D.
Yeah.
It's fun just to write characters up. You do that, like people will just write lists in their spare time and then go on the forums and bounce the ideas off each other.
Yeah.
It's really fun just to write a list. It's a fun mental exercise. So, yeah, typically speaking, 1850 points, but you could go down to 1,000, 1,500, or up to 100,000 if you have a weekend to kill playing one super game.
Okay, so what's that's a good question. What's the longest game you've ever played?
I played it was 50,000 points.
Wow.
Which is insane. We made a table that was 20 feet long, and it took like 12 hours to finish.
Were you just glad it was done, or were you like, that was awesome?
It was one of those things. It was like running a marathon. While you're doing it, it was not the most awesome thing.
Right.
But then when you were done, it was really fun to talk about it.
Cool. All right, I got you. Yeah, and we're about to take another break. When we come back, I want to ask some other questions. So, maybe be thinking about this. And feel free to introduce anything you want to talk about Warhammer. But one of the things that intrigues me, a lot of the Warhammer, or a lot of the war games I've played, is it's just when the other team is defeated, you win. but there's a different kind of objective system in Warhammer, right? You get like four. It's all, it's almost like you're trying to get objective points rather than just wipe out the other team. So I want to talk about that a little bit when we come back. And like I said, anything else, that you want to introduce. So my goal here is hopefully anybody who's listening to the show this week that doesn't know anything about Warhammer will go, hey, that's kind of neat. I want to learn a bit more. And another goal is I'd like them to go check you guys out on Twitch. So, feel free to introduce anything you want. But I have a show sponsor. I want to talk about them a little bit. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we'll talk about more Warhammer 40K with Reese from Frontline Gaming. And just go to Frontline Gaming online. And if you go to shaneplays.com and check out the show notes, there's links to their website and their Twitch and their Twitter and all that. But anyway, of course, Game Goblins is one of the game sponsors, and the show sponsors. And I asked Josh, I said, hey, do y'all have any Warhammer product you want to feature? And he said something, you guys probably have these too, Reese. I don't know. He said the new Start Collecting boxes are out Saturday. He said they're a bargain at $85. You get anywhere between 28 and 46% more plastic models in the box, depending on which army you pick, and data sheets on all units so you can build and play right. Great way to get started in the game. Now, evidently, Game Goblins has those in stock as of today. Do y'all have those as well?
We do. And if anybody wants to grab them, they could shoot us an email at orders@frontlinegaming.org. We'd be happy to mail it out to you.
Okay.
Or jump on down to Game Goblins and support your local game store.
Yeah.
They're a great deal. Great way to start playing the game.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, that sounds perfect for me, because that's another question I want to get into after the break is, realistically, the average Warhammer 40K player, what's the investment? But like I said, let me take us to a break, and then we'll talk more about that. So for Game Goblins, some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located at 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees, Game Goblins has expanded their store size, and there's plenty of room for exciting inventory and tables for play space. You'll like that space because Game Goblins has gaming events every day of the week. For all of your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. All right, Zach, take us to a break.
Megawars.net. The classic online space strategy game is returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate battle of the galaxies. Grab your slot today in one of the most hotly anticipated indie games of 2015. Visit megawars.net and get options only available during our pre-sale event running now. Megawars.net.
The die is cast.
Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
Hey, we're back on Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. We've got Reese from Frontline Gaming on. We're talking Warhammer 40K. Before we get into that, I neglected earlier in the show, our number, if anybody wants to call in, is 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. We'll have Reese for another 10 minutes, so if you have any questions about Warhammer or Frontline Gaming and their services, feel free to call in. You can also tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShaneSplays.com. And I'm also going to throw out, if you want to talk to Frontline Gaming, their tweet, they have a Frontline Gaming TV. Their Twitter is FLG TV, so you can hit them up that way as well. Reese, right before the break, I was talking about a couple of things for Warhammer, and one of the things I wanted to ask about was, with the games I've seen on your Tuesday night fights, it's not just about wiping out the other army. There's objectives that you score points off of. And then also wanted to maybe talk about what an average investment is, for the average Warhammer player, not the person who plays once and says, that was okay. Not the guy who lives and breathes it, but the guy who plays it every now and then and kind of, wants to have a decent set. So would you mind addressing either or both of those?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So the game is, it's a mission-based game. It's an objective-based game, as you had mentioned. Like I've actually won games where I didn't destroy a single of my opponent's models.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the way the game plays typically that you have progressive objectives where each turn you're trying to accomplish certain tasks, and then there's end-of-game objectives, and then there's little bonus points that you can get for like taking out their commander or being in their deployment zone, which is the area of the table where they're basically their like home base. And it's really fun because it makes you think constantly about achieving short and long-term objectives. It's really good for that. Great, very enjoyable. The mission system is quite a bit of fun. And a tradition in the game is that people that organize events will oftentimes make their own mission set. So there's a lot of room for creativity as well in creating the play experience that the players have.
Nice.
In terms of investment, realistically, to get rolling for everything that you need, you're probably looking at between $400 and $500. Of course, you don't need to do that all up front. We don't even recommend that people do that. Usually you start with the rule book, maybe a faction book, and then get just a model that appeals to you, put it together. Again, I would recommend going to your friendly local game store and asking for assistance from the people there. They're always happy to help to assemble and paint your models. And then you kind of build it as you go. You grab a model, a kit here, a kit there, put it together over a weekend, put some paint on it, play more games. It's an organic process.
Right.
Most people budget themselves per month as opposed to an upfront initial investment. It's like, I'll spend $50, $60 a month, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And then over the years, I grow a big collection of models that I built and painted myself, and maybe paid someone else to paint.
Right.
And it's neat because, I now have cabinets and cabinets full. I've been playing for 20 years, and I've just got army after army after army. They're all painted in the same colors. It looks really neat, and it's cool to look back and be like, I painted that when I was a teenager. I painted that. I remember what I was doing at that point in my life when I was painting this. And,
right.
It's a collective. It's a collective. You collect it too, but it's more than just like hero clicks, as you had mentioned, because you invest so much of yourself into it and building it and painting it. You get like an emotional attachment to them because you put so much of yourself into it. It's really neat. The hobby is very all encompassing. It's social. You collect, you build things, you customize it to yourself. It really is a very engrossing, engaging hobby. So,
and it sounds to me like your investment is somewhat future-proof. Like they don't 3 years down the road reboot everything. Like the stuff that you did 20 years ago, you can still play with today.
One of the things I used to tell people all the time, because people would come into our store and a parent would come in with their kids, and sometimes a little bit of sticker shock, because I could go buy a video game for $50, $60 or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, you could, and then your child will probably be done with it in a couple of weeks, maybe a month. And I always show them the very first 40K miniature I ever bought as a high school student, a Space Marine captain. I was like, I still have this. I still use it today. 20 years.
Wow.
I paid, $3, $4 for it at the time. And I was like, I still, to this day, get enjoyment from that I bought all those years ago. I was like, it really is. Like, one of the very few things that you buy it, you paint it, you can turn around and sell it for close to what you paid for it, sometimes more.
Right.
And that could be decades later.
So go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's a good. No, it's okay. It's a good investment as far as a hobby is concerned, more so than any other hobby I can think of off the top of my head.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's, and some of those miniatures look beautiful, especially with like some of the paint jobs I've seen you guys do. So I know we talked about your longest game you ever had was 12 hours. It seems like the games that I watch on Tuesday Night Fights are between 1 and 2 hours, maybe 3 sometimes, 2.5. Like, what do you think? Is that kind of an average game?
Yeah, when you go to a tournament, there's a time limit of usually 2.5 hours per game. But like most people play once a week, once every 2 weeks, right? Like adults, people like you and myself who have that obligations.
Yeah, have a life.
Yeah.
No, I mean everybody has a life, but we have obligations, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So for the average Joe, like you or me, that has other obligations, usually play one game a week. They usually allocate like 4 hours. It's very leisurely. Usually have a beer, shoot the bull, and you take your time, and it's a really fun, enjoyable experience. Think about like going and shooting around the golf, same time frame.
And if you're Frankie, I remember one night he seemed to be obsessed with his fly. Like, I don't know if you remember that night, but he was talking to the fly and he thought the fly was his good luck charm or something like that. So you and Frankie make quite the pair. So you're both quite the pair. Yeah, I enjoy it. And then of course you guys do the signals from the front line, which I watch that when I can, but I try to catch Tuesday Night Fights if at all possible, because and I'm learning how to play Warhammer by watching you guys. Like, I can't wait to seize. One of these days I'm going to play and I get to say I seized.
Oh, gosh.
So
if you play me, it's almost a guarantee that you'll see.
Yeah, and I love six-siders. And I love dice, and I love just the huge amount of dice that get rolled, and I just love all of it. So, but for people who have never seen a Warhammer 40K game, and there's other flavors, Warhammer, and there's Warhammer, but I'm mainly going to talk about Warhammer 40K. Just imagine a big table full of terrain and miniatures, and these incredibly well sculpted and well detailed miniatures of vehicles and drop pods and buildings and different kinds of infantry and just all this crazy stuff, creatures and big insect looking things. So it looks cool to begin with. It just looks neat to look at. And then the fighting starts unfolding. And of course, sometimes the dice are with you. Sometimes they're not. Somebody will grab an objective, and it's just really fun to watch the game. So, and the way you guys do it, of course you got your headsets on, and then you have a big TV monitor that's showing the Twitch chat, so y'all can keep an eye on the chat channel and respond to that while you're playing. And I think that's really neat too. So, and then I've seen at least once, probably more than once, like somebody showed up from out of town and they were playing to see if they could be part of some kind of group or league or something like that. And it was like, so how often do y'all have people on that are just kind of like, hey, this guy's in town and he wants to take a shot at seeing if he can join this group or whatever?
Yeah, pretty frequently. And anybody who wants to be on the show, if they're in San Diego, just email me at contact@frontlinegaming.org. We love having new people on the show. It's really fun.
Yeah.
We just had a couple of guys come out from Arizona last Tuesday. And we have a tournament team called Team Zero Comp. And the rules for the team is if you challenge someone, you throw down the gauntlet, and you play them in a game and you defeat them, you earn your space on the team. So it's really fun. It makes the games a little bit more, there's a little bit more involved with who wins and who loses, and really fun. And then our team is a really close-knit group of guys that, we all support each other, and it's like a bowling league, I guess, or something like that. And we're all buddies, and we go to each other's weddings, and if you need anything, you just call, and we go to events, we travel together. So it's really fun, and people like to be a part of that. And we're very inclusive, but the rules are you got to beat someone to kind of like
to be in,
your stripes, so to speak. Yeah,
sure.
It's really fun. It's really fun, and it's always a blast when we get to add a new person to the team.
All right, well, cool. I hate to do this, but as I like to say, time is a predator that stalks us all our lives. We're already out of time. Can you believe that, Reese? I really appreciate you being on with me. Folks, go to shameplays.com and check out the show notes, and there's links to Frontline Gaming and their Twitter and their Twitch and all that. Remember, you can watch them play Warhammer. You can learn more about the game. They put videos up on YouTube summarizing their fights or showing the full fight. They'll paint miniatures for you. They'll sell you Warhammer product. They've got these cool fat mats. So check them out. And as you've heard, Reese is just a darn nice guy, and we're glad he came on. So Reese, thanks so much for being on the show. And who knows, maybe I'll wander through San Diego one time and come on and let you smoke me. But at least let me seize the initiative so I can say I did that at least once. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the
You're
show.
welcome. All right. Thanks, Reese. In closing, our tweet of the week is from Ha Hildebrand. Funeral directors get all the credit, but it's funeral writers who do all the real work. Next week, Doug Davison and Dave Middleton will be talking fantasy grounds and virtual tabletops. Don't forget, we are on KryptonRadio.com, a week delayed. Like I said, if this was interesting to you to learn more about Warhammer, go check out Frontline Gaming online. If you're listening to the local area, run down to Game Goblins, check out their product. Like Reese said, support your friendly local game store. But if you who knows where you're at, people listen to the show all over the place via online and the podcast. Check out Frontline Gaming. Let them take care of you. They have, Reese himself has 20 years experience in this. So anyway, thanks so much for listening. Like I said, we'll be back next week with Fantasy Grounds and virtual tabletops. Thanks for letting me spend this past hour with you talking about geeky stuff. Shane Plays Radio is a journey into the things we love.